This is your place for all things Grand Rapids Griffins and all things Toledo Walleye. This is the Hockeytown West podcast with your host, Brandon Cook, Nick Harrington, and Travis Foch.
Boys, when we said we were back a couple episodes ago, we are so back. I don't know how much work we've been putting in over here. Nick somehow figured out on his own, credit to him, how to post reels and TikToks from the episodes finally. That's been like a year in the making of us figuring out how to do that. Nick, thank you. You've mastered that so far.
Is it Nick, thank you, or Riverside, thank you?
Or
both?
ChatGPT.
I was giving him all the credit. Come on now.
No, I just had to say it because I knew he would laugh about it. Seriously, he's done great work. He's been pounding them out for us.
It's not all Riverside. Like, I am actually going back through and cutting and adjusting, but it does find good spots for me to start tuning in, especially on this one, because I wasn't able to be on this episode with you, or this interview with you. So I was disappointed after watching the reels. Watching the episode. I was like, dang, this was a really good one. And
on top of that, Travis has been working his phone down in Toledo. We're currently sitting on 3 different interviews. One you're going to hear today. One more that's a former Walleye. We'll leave that teaser for you. And another former Storm player. We've been putting in work, and we have more lined up as well coming up for you guys. We literally have one. We're recording this on the 5th. We have one the following Monday to record for you guys too. We're putting in work over here. So when we said we're back, we meant it. We're back. And welcome back to the Hockeytown West podcast, your source for everything Grand Rapids Griffins and Toledo Walleye hockey. I am one of your hosts, Brandon.
Nick.
And I'm Travis.
And before we jump into our interview that Travis and Nick had just mentioned there, yes, we are interviewing Bruce MacDonald, former Toledo Storm player, current. I don't know what he's doing now. I wasn't part of the interview, and I haven't gotten to listen to it yet. So, Travis, give me the insight here.
He's living in Akron. He didn't really tell me what he got into work-wise, but boy, did he have some funny stories. And Brandon, you're gonna laugh when you hear them because, like Nick just said, I mean, before we started recording, or even if we were recording, there's a lot of laughs. Obviously, the teaser's out about him beating up a mascot, so that was pretty cool. He went full Serrano on sacrificing a chicken. So that was.
You sent us that clip literally immediately after the interview, and I was like, I missed a good one. Dang it!
And that story happened at the end of the episode. Like, he brought it up. I was like,
yeah.
So now I got to start back.
Yeah, I had no idea. And at the end, he's like, you didn't bring up the chicken. And I was like, what?
Oh, it's a good one. We can't wait for y'all to listen to that. So thank you for tuning into this episode to hear it. But before we jump into that, we got to update you on everything the Toledo Walleye have been up to in the offseason since we last chatted. And there's been some player signings. So, Travis, let's dive into those first, because those will be quick.
This is going to be tough. Obviously, it's weird when you see Toledo sign a goaltender because we haven't had to do it in so long at the beginning of a season. But Liam Soler,
that was what I was going to go with, so you're good.
Goaltender from Minnesota, formerly of Penn State. So 5'11", from Montreal, Quebec, 26 years old. Played, 4 years at Penn State, Nick, right? And then his graduate year was at Minnesota. So,
right.
Not the typical goaltender that Toledo's had the last few years of being like very, very tall, but it sounds like an amazing work ethic, works hard, and that's the biggest thing. So it's going to be fun to watch him come in and see what he can do. Obviously, he had a great year last year and some pretty good years at Penn State. So that's a very notable signing, seeing a goaltender get signed. I'm very interested to see if he'll get some blue and yellow gear.
I was just going to say that. I was like, I hope he gets a full Toledo kit.
Yeah, maybe a mask. I don't know. So you never know. I remember when Christopoulos came back and they did him with the full set that he wore like a plain white mask and like white and black pads for like the first half of the year until all of his equipment got here. So interesting to see.
Wozniak's listening. He knows what he wants, or what we want, at least.
And blue shorts.
Yeah, a goalie with blue shorts in Toledo? What? I don't think in my time watching this team, I've never seen it.
I'd have to go back to, I think Coase had some at the end of the year.
I must not have been in the rink when he had those.
I think Coase had them in that color at the end of the season. I'd have to go back and double check, but
or it was a shell over them.
It was probably a shell. But
Anyways.
yeah, I mean, goaltender, it's exciting, right? I mean, goalie, easily my favorite position on the ice, even though I played forward. So anytime you see a goaltender get signed, that's pretty cool.
So I did a little bit of research on this guy. So big thing that stood out to me was he had a 55 save game in the Big Ten tourney. So that I was like, for a team, I mean, the past couple years, there was a lot of shots being given up. So like this guy's ready to come into the coast to see a lot of shots. And then the big one too that I saw, I want to make sure it gets recorded, is he held top teams like Michigan to a shutout. Got a shutout.
Thanks, Nick. I know why you did that.
So
for those listening and wondering why I'm shaking my head, yes, I'm a Michigan fan, and Nick is not.
A top program. I didn't say I wasn't. I'm just saying.
He doesn't have a Michigan jersey in that house. He has a Michigan State jersey. He does not have a Michigan jersey.
I have a Michigan hoodie, so he could. Yeah, I got a Michigan.
He's
hoodie.
Confused.
So I think that's huge to be able to stop some big programs, Michigan, Wisconsin, big games, keep them scoreless. Yeah, the thing is, he's short. Very different. I mean, I say he's short. He's 5'11".
He's not Jeff Lurg short. Like,
he's 5'11". But we're so used to like Gage Alexander, Landon Miller, Sebastian Kosa,
Leatherman,
Carter Gylander, like all these guys. And Jan Bender is a tall guy too. Very different aspect or approach to go with a shorter guy. But it'll be interesting. It'll be good. I'm excited to watch this guy play. And I'm so mad we did not bring this up with the guy we just talked with. Kind of like a scouting report on that, guys. I had it in my head this morning and then I completely forgot with the interview. So
it's funny. Like you guys are like, one's Michigan State with hockey, one's Michigan, and I'm down here like, I like this team because of this person, and I like this team because of this person, and I like this team because of this person. So it's
at the end of this college hockey season, Travis will have an ASU jersey, a Michigan jersey, and add it to the collection of hundreds in his closet.
Yeah.
One thing, I mean, Travis, you hit on it with this goalie, and what we've heard about him is just the work ethic, right? And I think that's, it's not a piece that people can see on a stat sheet unless they really dial in. It's not, a lot of people aren't going to talk about that, but from our sources and everyone we talked to, the work ethic's there. And I think that's something that's extremely important. And, you mentioned he's, compared to the other goalies on the shorter side at 5'11", but Nick's still going to have to look up to him when we interview.
True. It's not 5'10". Without skates.
Sorry, I had to. Anyways, excited to see what this guy brings to the table. Let's move on to the next signing.
Will Hillman announced today. Huge piece, I think, to get back. It'll be interesting to see kind of where he fits into the lineup. He came in the final in the back half of that series. He also joined real late, only played 5 games, was kind of in and out in the playoffs. But going into next year, can he, maybe find his feet for a whole season? It's a 6'2" body. Some people want some size. He's on the bigger side than, maybe some of the players that have been here in the past. So there's a little bit of size there. And, he wasn't scared to go into the corner, throw his weight around a little bit. So that's maybe a welcome sight for Walleye fans that, they want grit and size. And now, granted, he's not 6'8", 227, and he's going to bulldoze everybody in his path, but he's still going to play physical and compete. Seemed like a great kid. Maybe in passing, I got to talk to him a couple times, hi, how you doing, so on and so forth. But very exciting. I will say, maybe after we get through the next guy, I'm very interested to see one thing about this roster, because I feel like it's very youthful, but your guys' opinion on this signing?
I mean, for me, you said it. Hillman, he surprised me in the small sample size we have of him coming in late like that, with how willing he was to go to those dirty areas of the ice. And that's exactly what you want to see on this team. That's what fans have been begging for. I'm really curious to see what, after having that small sample size under his belt, what a full season of him looks like. Like, is he just a depth player? Does he kind of come out in the beginning of the season and surprise a lot of people? It's kind of up to him to really set the opinion of everyone of what they're going to have of him going forward. And that's exciting for a young player like that. And I'm ready to see what he does.
I'm excited for it because this is a guy we don't have to relearn, or like he was already here last year. So there was obviously a fit. Pat liked him, brought him back. There was chemistry there. So, and I'm not too opposed to the youth movement that's kind of maybe slowly creeping in on this side. Like, if you could build, Pat's got a hard job. He's got to build the roster like every year. I cannot imagine having to rebuild a team every year. So you have some familiarity with this guy. You're ready to go. It's just, I like it. You got to kind of build you've got a core already with Hawk, you've got Keaton and
Craggs.
those two guys, Craggs, and then you've got to kind of find the next guys too, right? To kind of help move things along or keep things going the right direction.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Like, I know we'll talk about it here after the last guy and how this is all going to shape out. But Travis, who's the last signing?
Since we last talked, Colby Ambrosio coming back. Key piece that they signed late in the year, found some offense, especially in the playoffs. It seemed almost at points he was just all over the score sheet. And again, he's going to be a full season rookie. Like, again, it just goes back to so much youth in this lineup. What's it going to look like, right? And like Nick said, it's not a bad thing. Generally, when you get younger, you get a little bit quicker. And this game's getting quicker and quicker every year. So we'll see what happens with that. And you need the blend, right? You need some blend of size and maybe some physicality, but you also need some skill guys. And Colby provided that skill. And when he was moving, he can move. So, and he's got the flash, right? Like the bow in Kansas City. So like he's got that like little like I don't know how to swagger basically.
Yeah, swagger.
I'm excited for that sighting. I think that's going to be a key piece moving into next year, and to see what he can do with another guy. What can they do with a full season?
Yeah, I mean, talk about another small sample size, right? 12 regular season games, but 8 points in those 12 regular season games. Then, like you mentioned in the playoffs, where it felt like he was on the score sheet a lot. First playoff run in the pros like this, 11 points in 18 games in some clutch moments too. And to still have the swagger about him and that confidence at this level, that's huge. So I'm really excited to see what he'll bring to the table with a full season. Like we said, I'd be curious to see where he lines up. And, you think of losing a guy like Trenton Bliss. Can he fill that void?
I don't think Bliss would be the one. I think you're looking at Lewandowski potentially, just because
comparable.
I think you're going to see Colby on the wing, not so much at center.
True.
And that's kind of a good transition to like where I was kind of heading here. Like if you look at it, like you have so much youth that's signed, right? And you kind of look at it and you're like, okay, where are the goals coming from? Because let's be real, like you look at so far, now granted, there's a lot of work to still be done, a lot of announcements still to come and send downs from GR, but you just see like what's out and what's in so far. And it's kind of like, okay, is it going to be more by committee this year because they're so youthful? You haven't seen like maybe that like impact guy like you seen Spezia come in last year. Now, granted, that could just not be announced yet, but that's kind of one thing that an early question of the summer that I have is like, where are the goals coming from? But it again, like I'm not concerned yet.
Well, the one thing too, though, is like you bring it up. We have a lot of youth coming in, right? But you also pair that with a lot of experience. Like these guys just went to the finals, so it's like, yeah, youth is not always bad. It's good to have the experience, especially the experience that they got. Like what do they say? The playoff games are always 2 regular season games. So I mean, they did get a lot of experience back, which I think that's a huge part. Now, your question of like goal by committee, I mean, we got to get Pat on first to be able to kind of know where the goals are going to come from this year, right?
It's still too early to even say where they're going to come from. I mean, most of the time, like you'll see the way Toledo announces signings, sometimes it feels like, you get the core out of the way, you get the guys you expect back, and then the splashes and the ones that make you go, come later on in the season. So, or the off season, I should say. So it's going to be really interesting to watch, but I don't mind a youth movement because you know what youth usually brings is speed. And when the Walleye system is fully functional and running, and when they're fast, they're already dangerous just based on the way they operate on the ice.
Yeah, it's like it's not a huge cause for concern, but like you just see a lot of people will just go to their hockey DB, look at their points and goals and be like, where are the goals? Like, where are they coming from? And there's only, again, like we only have a few guys signed that have been announced, but it's just one thing that's kind of like, I have long days at work. So it's like, you kind of think to yourself like, okay, where's this coming from? Where's this coming from? So the rest of this summer is going to be very interesting to see like where all this comes from and what we look like maybe mid-September.
I mean, when you went up 100 goals, that's what it is.
Jesus. When you say too, like people will go look at like the hockey DB and go, where were the points? And there are a few past teams or in college, but you look at guys like Griffin Ness, right? Like he didn't have any high point totals before he was brought in,
Right.
and came in and was able to produce. Yes, there was a little bit of a fall off in production and then the trade happened, but at the same time, you don't know what you're going to get until they're in the system, on the ice, playing in this league. So patience, wait to see what happens. Trust in Pat. Pat hasn't steered this
Yes.
team wrong in all the years he's run it so far. Let's just let him keep doing what he's doing. And I have full faith that he'll build another really good team. I think if he didn't, I'd be quite shocked.
Well, and like think about it too. Like his first year, it sounds like from what you hear, you don't know what's true, that most of it was kind of put together, and he just had to fine tune the edges, right? And then last year, it was all him. Like, and he took him to the finals. So like, don't like overreact. It was more or less me just putting that out there as like, this is what you see, and this is what people are gonna think, because I know this fan base. Like, I've seen it for so long. They're probably freaking out, and it's August 5th. So it's like guys, we're not even to September yet. So
That's what I love about this fan base.
I know, and that's why I kind of wanted to just throw it out there, because I wanted to see if it would like maybe gauge interest from fans, like their opinions, what could potentially happen. So just thought I would ask.
Yeah. No, I love the fan base. I love when they start freaking out like this already. It's that passion about this team, no matter what. It's the off season, and there's more chatter about the Walleye than the Red Wings at this point. Like, let's be real. So it just shows how special and amazing they are, even though sometimes you just sit there and go, all right, come on, guys, settle down. It's gonna be fine. But speaking of Pat in the coaching staff, we've got to talk about the news that broke yesterday. That would be on 4th of August, Alden Hirschfeld stepping down from the assistant coaching position to work on some other stuff outside of hockey. And I think this one kind of caught us all by surprise.
Yeah, definitely. I didn't see this coming, but at the same time, you know what? He had an incredible playing career and then transitioned into being an assistant, and I guess wanted to, explore a new adventure. And it's a credit to him for, having the courage to do that, right? And you wish him all the best. And boy, if you look back at like his career and what he's meant to the city, I mean, he's from Sylvania, played at Northview, was, Mr. Hockey Ohio in 06, played at Miami, split time with South Carolina and Toledo and Providence and Grand Rapids. He was the captain here for 2 seasons, over 200 games. He was a big piece of this organization, and Pat's going to, have his hands full trying to find a replacement. Let's not forget that he ran the defense. So that's going to be interesting, because I thought last year as a whole, their goals against came down a whole goal. So what does that look like now? Now, granted, they've got 4 or 5 guys already coming back from last year's group. So that will help. But again, like, it's going to be interesting to see what a new voice on the back end does for them.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. But, just to speak on Alden, obviously as a player, watching him here in Grand Rapids and then his play in Toledo, and then knowing him as a coach now, just an incredible person too, as well, off the ice. That's all we can continue to hear, is just how great of a human being he is. And it's sad to see him go, man. It really is. I think, we didn't get to talk to him too much during the season. If you know him, he's on the quieter side for sure when it comes to everything, but at the same time, always make sure he says hi, always making sure, he does give you any time that he can. And he's going to be missed around Toledo for sure. And you hope you still see him around the rink as it goes forward.
Yeah, hopefully we still see him in Toledo at some points, to stopping by either playoffs or, regular season games. I mean, he was Mr. Hockey of Ohio, like literally 2006, but also like he played there. He went to school there. He went, and then coached. So, I mean, he's it's hard not to think of Ohio and not think of Alden, right?
Well, and look at the injury that he sustained, right? Playing with Grand Rapids and his journey back. Like, that was an unreal, like a scary event. And he came back and played a couple seasons. So just a warrior.
Yeah. I think my favorite, like, around the rink memory of him right now was like, it was when we were in Kalamazoo and someone had his Griffins jersey and they were like, he needs to come out and sign this. And he was more than happy to. And he was just kind of in awe that they had his jersey, like his Griffins jersey. I'm like, that's super cool. He was so nice to those fans, and just that's the type of guy he is. So wish him the best. We'll miss him, and we hope we see him around the rink, like we said. But outside of that, Travis, any other news and updates before we throw it over to this interview?
I just want to point out that the Andrew Gulch Memorial Golf Outing's coming up. It's next weekend. So if you can't get signed up, they're looking for volunteers. Any help's needed. I volunteered last year, took a lot of pictures, and, just helped out in any way. I think I helped run a hole for like a few groups had to finish and they had to get some other stuff done, but goes to an incredible cause. There's a Facebook page, and if you can in any way, like, feel free to donate, or if you want to play, I'm sure that they could maybe work something out. I'm not really sure. You'd have to look into that, but an incredible family that, puts on an incredible event, and it all goes for a great charity. And it was an incredible experience last year. And I knew as soon as I was there that I wanted to play every year now. So if you see me, say hi, but ultimately, just enjoy the day and just be there and have as much fun as you can.
Well, you play better in that one than you did in the Hawk one. I'm just kidding. You carried our team. You carried us. No, it is a great event. I wish it's something that I had the time in my schedule to go play in this year. I really do. But definitely, if you can volunteer, you're going to be entertained at least by watching these groups go through. I can tell you that much.
Yeah, and like last year, there was a golf cannon as a tee shot. So like, there's some unique things with it, and it's just an incredible day. And they've raised so much money for that foundation, and it's just it's an incredible thing that they're doing, and I'm excited to be a part of it.
Yeah, we'll drop the link to the Facebook page in the YouTube description if you want to check it out there, or if you want to find it, like Travis said, on Facebook as well. There's a nice page for it, so go check it out. But I think without further ado, we should throw it to the interview. What do you say?
Well, joining me today is another Toledo Storm legend. He was a part of the first team to bring a Riley Cup to the Toledo area. Thanks for joining the Hockeytown West podcast, Bruce MacDonald. Bruce, how are you doing?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
No, thank you for coming on. It's been an amazing experience learning about the Storm era, and I knew a little bit about it, but just to hear all the stories and get to know you guys, it's really been a pleasure for us.
Yeah, it's a special group, and the fact that 30 some odd years later, people still want to talk to us. It's cracks me up, but it's awesome too.
Yeah, it was funny when we started going through this. My dad was like, "You should try to get some guys from the Storm era," and then it's just grown into this crazy like 2-part series that we've thrown together. But before we jump to Toledo, I want to go back. Like, you went to New Hampshire University.
Yep.
What made you end up to go there?
I was a better lacrosse player than hockey player, and I wanted to play 2 sports in college. And my whole family is from Massachusetts area, but I grew up in a small town in Clinton, New York, central New York, and they actually won that Kraft Hockeyville one year. It's like a town of 2,500 people.
Oh, wow.
So
That's cool.
Super hockey intensive. Like, we had an alumni game a few years ago and they won that. And like 100 guys showed up and they had to break it into like 3 games. So it was hockey heavy. But I liked UNH. I wanted to play 2 sports in college. And there was only so much, like Providence, Maine, or Providence, Vermont, UNH, and then Ivy League schools. And I wasn't going to an Ivy. So I just, grew up surfing too and doing all that stuff by the beach and spent time there. And I just love the college. I love New Hampshire.
So safe to say you enjoyed your time there.
I had a blast. I actually had a really shitty hockey career there. I think if you look, like, I was, had a great lacrosse career. Hockey is just, we had 3 different coaches in the time I was there. The first, the coach that kind of recruited me, he had a heart attack and a heart transplant. So he was like, we had an interim coach the first year, and then he came back for a little while and had some other people. So I was like just in and out of the lineup. I think, it says, if you look at like Hockey DB, I played 30 games, but like I might have had 1 shift. I joke around and say I was like the halftime show, like, oh, get out there. And it, like, I think one point during the winter, they'd bring us back, and everybody had like a jersey, right? You got the red line, the blue line, the white line, the green line, the D are all in whatever they were in. And just in my jersey, just like my stall's got a black jersey in it. It's like, but I had no line, no position. Like, he'd tell me to go to the other end and shoot pucks. So I'm like, yeah, I'm just in the other end, like a shadow down there. So everybody for my last couple of years, my nickname was the Shadow in college because I was the guy at the other end of the ice shooting pucks.
That's crazy. So you had a better lacrosse career in college.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yep. But but I think that fueled hockey, right? Because like I felt like, I still had more to give to the sport when I got out of there. So I came like ready to go. Like when I got out of college, I went up to, my agent was from Montreal, and the best thing he could have done was we had a figure skating instructor, like power skating, and I was on the ice with like Bobby Dallas and some other Red Wings guys up in Montreal. Lived there for the summer, and after graduating from college, I became like an infinitely better skater. And you know, I wasn't like, I'm looking at all the other, you got all these tough guys and all these Hall of Fame guys on here, and like, here's the guy that worked hard and kills penalties. Like I'll be maybe like the 87th guy on this podcast, but it was but it was cool, and I did that. So I was drafted by the Flyers, and went into training camp just in great shape and ready to go. And you know, that's kind of the start of it.
Did you think, like, being in and out of the lineup? So like you say you're kind of in and out of the lineup at times in college. Like, did you expect to even be drafted, or like was that a shock?
I got drafted out of high school.
Oh wow.
So
Okay.
when I went to prep school in Connecticut, and it wasn't like, I watched the draft a couple weeks ago, and it's pretty, and like you see these kids like, oh, he's a prospected fourth rounder or second rounder, and like they're telling what kids are going to be at like 13. Like I didn't even know when the draft was. My grandparents were big Bruins fans back when normal people could afford tickets. Like they were line workers at the GE plant, and
Hmm.
they had like season tickets for a few games a year, right? And it was like Monday, and my grandfather calls me, and it wasn't long after he's like, "Hey, how you doing?" I'm like, "Good." He's like, "Congratulations." I'm like thinking he's talking about high school. I'm like, "That's awesome." He's like, "So what do you think about Philadelphia?" I'm like, "I don't know. I've never been there. Why?" He's like, "Well, they drafted you the other day. It's in the Boston Globe." So they had like a thing on all, because I was living in Haverhill, Mass then. So they had all the guys from the area that got drafted. So my grandfather actually saw it in the newspaper before I saw it. So
That's crazy. Did you think like in college that lacrosse would be an option for you?
there was nowhere to play
No.
afterwards. Like you go to like Australia or something, they had like that indoor league, and it's like you got $200 a game. You had to have a real job, and hockey was my first love. That was like growing up in that town in Clinton, New York. We had a semi-pro team. Like we had the old Clinton Comets in the old Eastern League, but then you had like, the Mohawk Valley Stars. There's like different iterations of that team throughout the years. And those were my friends' dads that all retired to this team. So I aspired to be that. Like, in hindsight, I wish I was in like an NHL team, and maybe if I'd aspired to that, I would have gone further. But I thought I made it when I got here.
Was there a favorite memory that you had while you were at school?
Oh, there was all kinds of stuff. I mean, I had a great time in school. The hockey memories, like, okay, my first goal ever in college was on Scott King, who ended up being a teammate. He went to University of Maine.
Yeah.
So, I'll always remember that goal, just because it was a hard one coming. I don't even think it was till my sophomore year maybe. But you know, I think it was cool to like one night we lost to Boston College in the playoffs, and like the next day, you get on a bus and you go start your lacrosse season. So it kept me out of trouble for the most part. But it was a great school, great friends. I'm going back there in September. We have a golf outing every year in the fall, and go back and play with my roommates. So it's
That's
good stuff.
cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good stuff that you can go back and have like a reunion type thing, which I'm sure we'll get into with the one that just happened. What was it, last year? So how do you end up in Toledo?
So I was going to training camp in Philadelphia, and like, Chris, I don't even know how Chris found me, quite frankly. I got a letter or a call in the summer, and he's like, "Hey, you know, I don't know if called my agent, but he's like, he really wants you to come here." And I was going to Philadelphia. You don't know, so I went, and I'd already like filled out like what kind of equipment you want if you go to Toledo. I'm like, I'll never go to Toledo. But so I had a decent camp in Philadelphia. I played in two like rookie games, and this is like Chris Simon was on that team, and you know, Danny Kordick, it's a lot of good players. And but played in two games against Washington. I had a goal in each game. And I remember getting on the bus, and Lenny Barry's like, "Hey, Mac, so you have a contract?" I'm like, "No." He's like, "Oh, you're definitely getting one. You had two games." Bus pulls in, we get out at the hotel, and Paul Holmgren's standing there. He's like, "Who are you?" I'm like, "MacDonald." And he's like, "Yeah, I got to talk to you too." And he just cut 5 of us right there in the parking lot. Like, it's like there's no like meeting. You think you like get called into an office or something. Like it's like you're out. You know. So it was funny because our plan was to like we were just gonna go out and drink, right? And our plan was to get back in the middle of the night and somehow find chalk and outline our bodies in the parking lot, and we are just going to put our numbers from training camp in the bodies, but where we died. And
Yeah.
we actually didn't get back till like 8 in the morning, so there was already people walking around, so that kind of foiled that plan. But from there, it's like, all right, I guess I'm going to Toledo. So I just kept skating, doing drop-in hockey and stuff, trying to stay in shape till I got there, and then you know flew in there. Chris picked me up at the airport. I was like, that was the beginning of it.
First impressions on meeting him.
So we got the car. Chris is like smaller than I thought he'd be. First of all, very intense but nice guy. And then the other guys come in. So he drops us off at the hotel. We're staying at the old Secor Inn. And it was me, Patty Pillipuk, who's like just maybe turned 20. I don't think he was legal to drink that year. And I can't remember who else, but we were at the Secor Inn, and there's a movie theater next to it. And they had just that movie like House Party, one of those movies was, and like we're sitting in the room talking, as all of a sudden, there's like 2 gangs in this thing. There's gunfire, and people are running all over the parking lot. And we're like, where are we? Like, what is going on? And we had our, we went over to Arnie's where we all used to hang out and met Scotty Lerman there. That was the trainer. He's like, we had training camp at Tamashanner,
Yeah.
which we're like, oh, this is glamorous, like we're in this rink. And I remember, I still remember Chief, who I love. Chief comes in. He didn't even have a hockey bag. He had a garbage bag full of equipment, and he's just like had this stuff that he's like pulling out of a garbage bag. It was just a really unique group, but like so talented and like so tough that first year. It was insane.
And you guys had a good year that first year.
It was amazing. And it's, so I go from really, really shitty college career to like, I had great coaches growing up, like high school youth hockey coaches, people that believed in you and helped. And then I didn't have that. I had it in lacrosse. I didn't have it in hockey. And Chris was the first guy that like believed in me. Like he made you like, yeah, I want you here. You're going to do this, this, and this. I mean, he probably said that to everybody to get him to camp, but but he meant it. Like he pushed you. You knew your role with Chris. You knew what you were supposed to do, and if you did your job, like, and I got off to a quick start. Like I scored the first goal in Storm history. Like I think 30 seconds into opening night in the first period. So, I probably had that not happened, and I got off to a slow start, I probably would have never played there. But, it just kept rolling. But we're just so good, and the team was just so tough, and it was just different. You played in that little 180 by 80 rink, and it was like we had just like big, strong team. We had like 4 or 5 like legitimate heavyweights on that team, like Eddie Lubicic, Pat Pillipuk, Greg Bignell, just like Byron Lomo, just like all this insane toughness and skill. It was nuts.
That's what I like wanted to ask you, like what clicked when you turned pro? Like, cause the production like skyrocketed.
Yeah, I mean, I was playing, right? I had somebody that said, get on the ice, play in all situations. I killed penalties. I played power play in my first year. Chris trusted me to be on the ice. And that goes a long way with your mental. You weren't afraid to like make a mistake. Chris was like, go do it. It's funny, the first we played a preseason game over in Erie, and we're getting ready, and we didn't even have our real jerseys yet, right? The real sweaters, and they didn't have the tie down straps. And Scotty Lerman's walking around. He's like, here, he's got a quarter and then skate laces, and he's tying your jerseys down. He's just want me to tie you down. I'm like, I don't think I'm gonna fight. He's like, all right. So like, literally like second shift, like some guy grabs me and like, but when he grabbed me, he pulled my shirt and I ducked out of it and he was holding it and I just hit him with one punch in the face and the guy dropped and I'm like, I'm just skating around like an idiot, like I just did something. And then, but Chris goes, "You're not here to fight. If you break your hand in a fight, I'll cut you." I'm like, all right, so yeah, I was on a different path than some of the guys you've had on here.
He seemed like Brandon has said so many times, like this expert salesman of Toledo, Ohio. Like,
He hit Chris when he throws that smile on. He's like, "Oh, hey Mac," the fans loved him. Like he'd do it, man. He is a salesman. He is a motivator, and he can motivate you positive or negative. Like, he told you like you never. Sometimes you did, but most times Chris kept things going. Like you could be that first year we were so freaking good, and there'd be a new guy in the locker room every week, just some guy. He kept bringing in players, like always fiddling with the lineup, and like this one guy shows up, like he's up, and he knew, like we didn't have the internet or any of those things, but you like the sheets, and you're like, oh, this guy, the phone, like this one guy shows up in like a suitcase and stuff, and he's like, why is he here? Like this guy, I can't remember the name, like something Magic or something. He was like just a goon, but not good, like didn't fit, but like Chris would brought him in. He's gonna be here for a couple days, and this guy, like they put him in another room to dress, and Tiny, who is one of the assistant equipment guy, goes in. This guy had in his suitcase, he just opened it up and it was like full of like Penthouse and Hustler magazines. Like he had clothes and like Spank mags. It was like all this guy carried around from like the 8 teams he played on that year. It was nuts.
wow, that's a new one. I'll say that is a new one.
Oh yeah.
I mean, well, that's one thing too. Like if you look at the rosters, I mean, I think like the 2 championship years, there was like 60 guys between the like that played. It's just
yeah.
It's insane that, and then you got to figure out the right group to take into the playoffs. And
If you look at the number of guys Chris cut, like just didn't want them, that went on to be like all-stars. Scotty Burfoot, smaller guy, but was awesome in the league. Like I think he's in the ECHL Hall of Fame. Darren Colburn, the first year, Chris cut him, I think because he didn't like the way he laughed. He's like, we can't have that on the bus. I don't want that guy. And he scored 70 goals for Dayton that year. But Chris knew what fit, and we had a team every year that was super, super tight. And we were pack hunters. Like we went out to the bar together. We did everything together. And it was a very special time. And every year, like guys would move on, retire, whatever. And he added that right mix, and he just kept doing it. So
it's the one thing that seems like it stuck out is how tight of a group you guys had. They seemingly every year. I mean, it seems like, I think we've heard multiple times, like practice would get over and it was a race to the bar.
It was a race to the bar. The first year, it was funny. We had this gig because you don't want guys getting DUIs.
Right.
And we had a gig where we got free cab rides,
Okay.
And guys caught on to the fact, well, we get free cab rides. It's not just to get home. Like I can't remember, we lived out, 20 minutes from the rink or something. And guys would start calling cabs to go to practice. So you'd have like 5 guys get cabs, and then we started racing the cabs to practice. Like you're telling, God, we gotta fucking beat that cab. Like we have like a race of cabs. That lasted for about 2 weeks. Then they caught on, like, why the hell are we driving guys around every day? But it was pretty funny.
Oh my goodness. Talk about the smaller sheet, because I think it was Duncan was like that when we had him on. He's like, the first practice I like flew into the boards because it was shallower and it was shorter.
It was shallow, short, no room behind the net, nowhere to hide. I mean, the boards came up to your ribs, and then there was like just a little bit of glass. And it was just, the fans were on top of you. They're amazing fans. You get 5,300 people in there a night. It's just loud. There's like that cloud of smoke halfway up. But other guys would come in, like we'd go play at other rinks, and you'd be like, where the fuck am I? Like you didn't have a map to get to the net. Like if you played in a big rink and then came to that rink, it's like, especially the skill guys, like they used to say it was a Toledo flu, like guys just didn't show up. They just didn't want to come play there because not only was it a small surface, but we had so many big guys, and Dan Weeb and just big Boother, like just big. Dunk didn't play my first year, but he practiced with us all the time.
Yeah.
And I would watch him like I played in the NHL. Like I would just watch. I'm a very learn by watching person, and like he's a guy you could just watch what he did with the puck and little things, and just I picked up a lot from him kind of that first year too. So
I think it was neat. Like I remember going to the sports arena before like the Storm like folded and they paused and then became the Walleye. Like that's literally what it was. I mean, like the fans were literally just like right on top. You could reach over and grab somebody if you wanted to. Like it was crazy.
If you wanted to, it happened all the time. If there was a fight over there, people were reaching in. They were getting after it. They had, I think it was the first year, maybe the second year, but Barry, who is a master, Barry Soskin, who the owner, fantastic, Tim Mauser. They would bring in like they had all this goofy shit. They brought in this guy Claude Scott, the happy trumpeter. Like he was a guy from Quebec that would in the NHL famous for playing a trumpet, and like he'd go getting everybody revved up. And he's shit faced one game, and he's up there and he's doing a thing, and so he's standing. He's like on the glass. He's drunk. He's playing his trumpet, and he slips and falls onto the ice during the game. So plays going on. He's laying there like he's holding his back, and he tries to get up, and there's these two fans there, and he goes to get up, and he puts his trumpet up to try to get. This guy just reaches over, just rips the trumpet out of his hands, like "Bop!" Just leaves him on the ice. They didn't even care about him, but it was insane.
That's nuts. And then like you go on to win a championship in Toledo. How special was that to bring a championship to Toledo?
It was awesome. I mean, it was amazing. It was like just the team, because the year before sucked, right? The year before the team we had, if we had like the best team from year one and the best team, it would have been close. Like the skill we had, like Mike Maurice and we had just so many freaking good guys that had moved on. But we just got end of the year, we just had a shit ton of injuries. So it felt like an empty year. You know what I mean? Like we're first place all year, run away with it. Then we just fall apart, like injuries, call-ups, all this stuff. We had just a cobbled together team going into the playoffs. I had mono and missed the whole back half of the season. And then I find out on the last day of the season, Chris tried to trade me for Jabber. Like Jabber was playing for Nashville, who was already mathematically eliminated. And again, it's Chris, right? I don't blame him. Like here's a guy I weighed like 170 pounds. I lost all this weight. I had mono, hadn't been in the ice in a month and a half, 2 months, and like you'll be cleared for playoffs. But he's like, well, if I can get Jablonski instead of this guy that looks like he's been on Survivor, like he'll take him. But the league actually canceled the trade, right?
It's funny you bring that up because Jabber brought that up, but he couldn't remember who was all in the trade.
Me.
Yeah, that's crazy.
His stick showed up in the locker room. And again, I hadn't been on the ice. I'm trying to get back in shape, but we went into that playoff like decimated. We had a kid that was like a high school teacher that came back to play. Shit, I can't remember his name, but like he was in such trying to stay shape. He was doing anything and they called him heart pills. Basically it was speed. Like it was like some kind of Sudafed or something. This kid ate a shit ton of them before one of the games. And you look over him, his face is white, he's sweating profusely, and his resting pulse is like 240. And the doc's like, this guy can't go on the ice. So then we're short another guy, It was shit like that. It was common,
Winning at home had to be really special though.
It was, I mean, it was great. Like I don't have it here. I don't have many. I actually have a picture up there of it. Yeah, just the fans being there. And it's funny because you think about it, like we went down 2-0, and I'm sure Chris ripped us up or something, but we had so much confidence and swagger on that team that I don't think anybody stressed it. We're like, nah, whatever. We had just so much talent. Like you look around, like Hicksy, Dunk, like there's all these guys. Like how do you not win with this lineup. Like, and that's to take nothing away from Wheeling. They were a great team that year. Devin Edgerton was like insanely good, but you know, so what do you, if that guy touches the puck, break his arms. Like what Hicksy did to that kid during the playoffs, just hack, slap. It's such a different game now. Hicksy just like beat the shit out of that kid that whole game. I don't even, he probably couldn't like eat dinner for like months after that series, just to even lift his hands up. But you know, doing it in front of our fans, coming back the way we did, then you got like the parties and the parades and smashing the cup in Consol. Like we really shared that championship with the city, and it was it's a lot. It was everybody. Like, we lost Scotty Lerman, the trainer, a few months back. But like just everybody was part of it. And it was, like I said, we celebrated just the way we played and went out as a group, everybody behind each other. It was really cool.
I know one thing that I think you might have brought it up when I was talking to you through text was that the next year you were on the other end of it.
I was.
Can you take us through that year and just what it's like for people that will never understand? Like you go from being on the bright side and then the next year on the wrong side. Because it's got to be the most like empty feeling when you're on that other side.
Yeah. I mean, I went to an NHL camp every year. So the first year, Philly. After that year, I was in Quebec the next year. And then the next year I was in Montreal for Champ. So, and I actually collided with like the hardest I've ever been hit in my life was by Donald Brashear in training camp, and I hurt my wrist. So I struggled with some injuries that year, like right from the start. So playing, and then we got like halfway through the year or whatever, and Chris is like, "Hey," and I appreciate this because I know how it happened, right? I was the swing apartment my second year. Like I got there late because when I got let go by Quebec, I was in Moncton and like I bopped around. So I was one of the last guys to show back up in Toledo. And so I didn't have a roommate. So I was like in this apartment that like whoever was coming through would be like my guy. And like Chris would usually be like, hey, we got a new guy coming in. He's like, he'll be here for like 4 days. And so I'd be sitting there and this guy would be all excited. He's like calling his, I'm on the best team in the league. It's so good. And I'm sitting there, I'm not going to be here long. I knew like half the time, like I actually had in my locker, I had these little smiley faces that I drew with a marker and I put guys' initials under them. And when they got cut, I cut it out. I remember one guy coming, he's like, what are all those? I go, those are all guys that were my roommates before you. And I go, that's you right there. But it's the way it was. But so Chris said to me, you're not playing great, but you're a big part of the team. But I want you to be like, the extra guy. Like you won't play all the games, you'll still play, but we got to do some stuff. And I've seen that dance before. Like then you don't make the playoff roster and whatever, And I still wanted to play. Like I still thought I could play. So I'm like, I don't know, I don't want to do that. And he goes, well, I'm not going to trade you within the division because I was planning a wedding and like, so, okay, I'll just go to Columbus. It's close, whatever. He's like, well, you're not going to Columbus. You're not going to Dayton. We got to play them too many times. And I remember we were on a Southern swing and Brubaker, who was the coach of Greensboro, like we're practicing and Bru's hanging over the glass going, I'm trying to trade for you, but he won't let me have you. Well, we're practicing. I'm like, all right. So I ended up going to Raleigh. Kurt Kleinendorf's awesome person, like totally different than Chris. Like,
it's probably not hard.
Yeah, Chris, we played 3-on-3 after every game and for money after every practice in it. We played everybody throwing a couple bucks. We played the best hockey you would ever see in Toledo was that 3-on-3 because all of us were so competitive. Nobody wanted to lose that $2. And Chris would play and he would spear guys in the nuts. Like Chris wanted to win, and that's just how, and Kurt was just a nice guy, but we had some guys on that team that were we had it wasn't what I was used to. I was used to this great group of guys, and it was cliquey. You had a few guys that had been there since the beginning of their team, and they lived in a different house than the rest of the guys, and it was different. So I got traded on Christmas Day and went down there and, pack your shit. You drive down and, you know, only regret, I wish I'd played better there, but then, and I was not a fighter. Like, look at my penalty minutes. Like, I wasn't great at it at all. But, I, we were made a swing back up here, and I was so excited to play against Toledo. I was just like, yeah, I'm going to play in the sports arena. It's going to be awesome. Well, the night before, we played in Dayton, and I got in a fight. I wasn't playing well. I was frustrated. I got in a fight with this kid, and the ref was like, I heard your hand pop on the first punch. Like, I hit him in the head. Like, I was finally winning for once, so I just kept punching him. Like, it was a new feeling for me. I think I broke my hand in like 6 or 7 places on this guy's forehead, and so my hand was just done. And I didn't play at Toledo the next night, and I didn't play in the playoffs. So I had to sit and watch, that, and it was really tough. It was really, really tough. But I will say this, like, to kind of speak to the character of the teams. And that's people like, what are the difference? Like, people would ask me, what's the difference between Toledo and Raleigh? Why, Toledo was a tight team where people knew their roles. I know that when we got down to, the year before, when we were down to Wheeling, no panic, right? We're easy. We got this. We're good. We pulled together. After, and I don't remember what game it was in Toledo, in what the series went to, but Raleigh had played up in Toledo, and the guys that weren't dressing, there's like 3 or 4 of us that were injured, didn't make the trip. And it was the game that, I don't know, you've probably seen the video of like Jimmy Powers has like a wide open net. He goes and dunk comes flying out of nowhere and blocks the shot with the shaft of his stick. Like, and that would have like sealed it. And the Toledo went on to win and went up. Well, on the bus ride back from that game, the guys that were playing took a vote and voted the guys that weren't playing out of the bonus money.
Huh.
So like that's what you get paid in the playoffs. You're playing for bonus money, right? And that's the difference between Toledo and Raleigh. That would have never ever happened in Toledo,
Wow.
but it happened there. And it's like, and it just goes to speak. Like, I see the guys from Toledo all the time. I saw Juddy yesterday. I talked to Chopper the other day. Deasley texted me a half hour ago. Like, we all still talk. We have a very, very tight group. I don't know if anybody from Raleigh talks or not. I don't talk to them.
Yeah.
So
what brought you back? Because you eventually did come back to Toledo.
Yeah, I just couldn't leave, man.
Yeah.
Well, I had already, I'd taken a job, like, right. I gave it 3 years. I had 3 NHL camps, and I broke my hand. I had a permanent disability in my hand. So I'm like, well, I guess I work now, right? I got a job, and I'd met people. Toledo had a good fan base, good people, and I just met people. Like, I volunteered for everything. Like, if there was the people wanted us to go talk to a school, I went. Go to a hospital, I'd go. I enjoyed doing that stuff. You get one chance in your life to do it, right? And it's funny now, I think, like, through business and everything, like, I could give such better advice now. I was like a 23-year-old shithead. I'm like, oh, go talk to these kids. Like, nobody wants to talk to the sales guy. They want to talk to these guys. But so I landed a job here, and I was in Toledo. But since I was around, I stayed in good shape. I really didn't skate. Like, I needed to separate myself from it. So I didn't do like men's league or any of that stuff. But, I stayed in pretty good shape, and Chief was around and Nick through the years, and they're like, hey, you're in good shape. Come play a game. So even through that, like, I'd play 2 or 3 games a year, just sprinkled throughout there. And then I don't know if you remember Tim Mauser. He was the general manager. So Maus took the job out in Utah, and I had a degree in sports marketing and thought, oh, I'd like to get into the front office side of things. And he brought me out there on the sales side, and I was out there for a few months, and I realized that going to the rink every day to sell stuff wasn't the same as going there to play, and so I moved back and I called Chief. Chief was coaching then, and Chief and I were roommates, and just loved Chief. And I called him and said, "Hey, I'm moving back to Toledo. Can I play?" And I was 30, by this time, and he's like, "You got 2 weeks to get in shape, and you can play as long as you want to play." And came back, got in shape, and I played that whole season, you know. Um, and ended up getting the job I got after that, like during that time. Like my whole life wouldn't have turned out like it turned out now had it not been for that going back there and Chief giving me that chance, And Chief is like, have him on the show. He's like just brutally honest, like right where you stand with Chief. Like he was my rhyme mate sometimes. Like, yeah, you fucking suck. What are you? Most skilled guy ever, just couldn't skate because of injuries and stuff. Like, but just so smart with the game. We had and everything, I guess, shitty happens in Dayton. We had a game in Dayton one night when I came back. It was me, Ronnie Newhook, and I don't remember the other guy on our line, but there's like 8.5 minutes left in the game, and we get scored on. We give up a shitty goal. We come back to get out to change, right? We figure like, it's like, fuck you guys, get out there. You suck. And he just wouldn't let us come off the ice. I had an 8.5 minute shift. We would look he would stand here like this. I start to go, and he'd go. So I just stand. The other team's like, why are you still out here? I'm like, he won't let me change. Like we just kept icing the puck. And this one guy, like, if you fucking shoot it, I will chop you. Like I will spear you. I'm not getting another minus, But and we didn't get scored on again. But it was an 8.5 minute shift.
One thing I found really crazy. So, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but Elite Prospects said you didn't play from 99 to 06. And then you played one game in 06, 07.
Yeah.
What happened there?
So Nick was coaching. We had like an alumni game, and I had just gotten back from a surfing trip in Costa Rica, and like I said, and I skated, like we had a group over in Rocky River, Ohio, that would play on Wednesdays, like every now and then. Like I get on here and there, and I just had a really great alumni game. I scored like 8 goals in this stupid alumni game because I'm still in shape. I think I was 39 years old, I think, that when that game was, and just got back for this thing, and Nick's like, "Ooh, I'm gonna keep an eye on you just in case, like I might need you." I'm like, "All right, Nick." And maybe 2 weeks later, he's like, if Nick calls you at like 10:30 at night at home, he's like, "Hey, what are you doing this weekend?" He's like, "I got a couple injuries. I got a couple call-ups, Can you come play? I'll give you $300 and a couple sticks." I'm like, "Sure, I'll come out and play." So it was, so yeah, it's like, "Oh, you won't play at all." Like, and I probably didn't play much, but there have been other games where they're like, we just need a body. Like, just come. You won't play at all. And there'd be like a bench clearing brawl. And then like I'm skating every other shift the rest of the night, and I can't walk for 2 days, So, but I mean, the fact that, I know Chopper did it a couple times. The fact that that they would think, like, "Hey, here's a guy who can still do it." And it's hindsight is probably idiotic. Like if you try to do it now, it's like, the game's so much faster now. I don't think you could do that. Like I could fake my way through a game then because it's different. I could hook, clutch somebody, get in the right spot, chip the puck out. Now it's just so quick. I look like it'd be embarrassing to be out there.
Talk about the reunion and how special that was to have all you guys back together.
It is. It was just, I mean, Dan Savig and the Walleye just did such a great job getting people to come back. Like, and we're all pretty tight, right? We go with, like, there's been events before that, like whatever one of us goes into the Hall of Fame or stuff, like, I'm the +1. I'll never be in it, but I'll go support any of my teammates that go in it. I love it. I think and my wife didn't know me like when I played back then. And we went to one of the ones, and she's next to me, like crying while one of my teammates. She's like, "Oh, this is awesome!" It's an emotional thing. It's a great tribute to the guys that have gone into it, and every one of them is so deserving of it. And to take those two teams to the next level and really like recognize that. And like I said, there's guys that I see a lot, still talk to. There's guys that I haven't seen in years that it was so awesome that they came back. Like we're just like those 30 years never happened. Like we're drinking till 3 and 4 in the morning, telling all the same stories. It's got to be horrible for the spouses and stuff. Some were there at the time, but like, it's just the same shit. Everybody's busting everybody's balls, jokes, making fun of Boother's hair, whatever. It was amazing. The fact that, like I said, they took time to do that. I remember, I think between like the second, they had 2 waves of guys to do like autographs, right? And my wife's like, where are you going? I go, I'm second and third period. I have to do autographs. I'm like, I'll be there. Like nobody's going to come. It'll be like 3 minutes and then I'll be back up here. Here, hold my beer. I was out there for like, it went after the game. Like I missed the whole third period. There were still people, and there was literally hundreds of people, and they would like, oh, here's your hockey card. Here's your this. Like people like had all this stuff, and it was like, it was really awesome. But and that part's great, the fan part and that, but to sit next to your buddies and do that, Poto, his sister came, Barry Potomsky, the fact that she was a part of it, because Barry was such a big part of those 2 teams, and Jose's family and I remember when Jose went into the Hall of Fame, like his daughters were down there and they had all this Toledo Storm stuff they bought online. It was just, people get into it, and it's like, it's great to celebrate your friends, because we've lost some of them, and it's super sad, that people, are at that age, right? And shit happens. And so to just have that weekend and just be recognized and just like see the guys again, so, and we got like a little chat text group that we're like, it's pretty funny. It's very immature, like, so they're just great people.
That was a unique weekend. I only got to go to the first game because there were 2 games that weekend, but like,
Yeah.
they the scoreboard looked like the digital part looked almost identical to what it looked like at the sports arena. Like the uniforms, they did a great job. They actually like did a full kit. Like I was like blown away with how well they did that. It was, I said to Kels when we were sitting there, my wife, I'm like, man, this is like reliving my childhood almost. Like,
yeah, same for me.
Crazy. Yeah. It was such a class experience, but like when you walk into the Huntington Center, you got to probably think like, man, where was this when we played?
Oh, yeah. It's cool, right? And in their locker room and the technology and all that shit they have, like, quite frankly, I wouldn't want to go in between the first and second period and sit in front of like an instant replay with Chris if I fucked up, like maybe if we still win, like he'd forget about it till the next day. But like they just analyze so much shit. They have so much data. But I heard Chopper like talking about the locker room sucked. Like it was horrible. It was horrible. And he was so what was it? My second year, we had Aaron.
Yeah.
Who's the goalie?
Witten, now Hamlin.
Aaron Witten. I went to college with Aaron, so I knew her coming in.
Yeah.
But it was a circus. But that was the circus. That was Chris. That was Barry. That was like this thing, right? And I will tell you, she is fearless, because she would stand in goal in those 3-on-3 games and just take all the high hard heat. Like guys would just rifle pucks off her mask, and she didn't go down. But one of the games, like they always wanted to interview her after the game. She usually had her own little locker room and did her own thing, but she was a good sport about it. It was that was just another weird thing from that season.
Yeah, I actually got to have her on the show. She came on.
Yeah,
I talked to her. She was really cool to talk to. That was a very unique piece that, she was the first one. Like she broke a barrier.
And it's bullshit that other girl didn't play against. It's like that was the whole thing, right? We were supposed to have that game with Minorio over there, and we would have kicked the shit out of whatever team she was on that year. I know, like even the game we won, I think she didn't have the greatest game, but like I think we won like 11-8 or something. We still rolled some team, even though we gave up some goals. But hats off to her. The fact that she could do that, and we had all kinds of goalies in and out of there. You need two goalies. Practice sucks without two goalies. So we had all kinds of people floating through anyhow. And she was there, and she did a good job.
That's crazy. I mean, anything else that you want to enlighten us about from your days in Toledo?
There's a lot, man. Like Chris, Chris and I have like a love. It's a love, and it was a little bit of hate for me after a while. But we were on a road trip my second year, and we had some call ups and stuff. And we go in, we pull in, and we get to this hotel, and my agent calls. He's like, "Hey, you got called up. You're going up to Halifax for 5 games or something. You got a 5 game deal. Go to the front desk. All your paperwork's there." And so I go down and I go, "Hey, you have paperwork for me?" Like, "No, we don't have anything." "Are you sure?" Like, "No, your coach took everything." So I knock on the door. I go, "Chris, I heard I got called up." He's like, "Yeah, it's not a good deal." I go, "What do you mean it's not a good deal?" Like, I went to training camp there. I had a good camp. They're calling me up. It's not a good deal. Like, we need you right now. We're short guys. I got to get wins here. And I'm like, fuck, come on. And he's like, "I'll tell you what," he goes, "you can go." He's like, "You're going without any equipment. Your equipment's locked on the bus and you can't have it. And when you come back, I don't guarantee you have a job." So I'm like, all right, well, I guess I'm not going. So we play. I don't know if it was that night. It's probably the next night. And so he goes like, "Oh," it's like, "You can start tonight." I'm like, "Oh, thanks." So I go out for the opening face-off. I'm up against some guy and I'm pissed. And they drop the puck and I just drop my gloves and sucker punch this guy and get an instigator. I get kicked out of the game, you know. And so I quickly get off. I go in and change, and I get up into the stands. And I'm not going to go back to the locker room. I was sitting up there, and Chris is just so hot, and he's got that face, and he's like, "Eh." So he comes off the ice, and he just points. He goes to the locker room. I'm like, "Oh shit, here it goes." So I go to the locker room and I sit there, and Chris is just pacing around. He picks up his stick and he's twisting it in his hands, and he's got this look. He goes, "This is the closest to violence I've ever been in my life." And he takes this stick and he sticks it in my throat. And he's like, "You are the most selfish asshole, and I could fucking kill you right now." Just something along those lines. I'm like the kid in Caddyshack, with like the pitchfork. I'm like this, and nobody's saying a word. Like nobody. Like all the guys are like, "Oh fuck, he's probably dead." Like, but I made it through the year and won a championship after that. Like, it's just
That
like,
is unreal. That
yeah,
might top him shooting pucks at Booth.
Boother deserved that. Boother, like Precious, could be a little full of himself. And well, not only did he shoot pucks at Boother once, I don't think it was the part of the same story. He sent Deasley and Poto onto the ice in practice to fight him. He's like, "One of you guys go fight him." He was just so mad at Boother. He made him sit in a chair once in the middle of the rink in practice and yell at him and watch his skate. Like, that was awesome. Like, we had a thing we did, it's like a lot of stuff was just the fun Osspice stuff. Like, we had a thing like whenever we'd go to Hampton Roads, we had a polar bear club before and we would make a point like at midnight after the bar, we'd all jump in the ocean and go swimming. Like, there's not everybody was in it, but a bunch of the guys, Poto, Juddy, I think Jose did it. We just, that's what you miss, right? When you get out of hockey, I didn't miss hockey so much.
Miss the culture.
I miss the culture, the teammates, the pranks. Like, it was ruthless. It was Scotty Lerman, our trainer. Like, he's like, "This is my area. You guys got to be out there. Don't fuck with me." And one night we're at the bar and I gave him a hot foot and I went a little heavy on the matches, and he was talking to this chick trying to pick her up, and I lit the matches on fire, and it went too big too fast, and his whole shoe started to melt to his foot. He was hot. So the next day I get in, we go to practice, and I come out, and he goes, "You're gonna wear your sandals home?" I go, "What?" And I had Chuck Taylor's, and he hacksawed the toes off my shoes. And then I'm like, funny. And then I go to put my jeans on, and like my foot won't go out my pants. And he sewed all of our equipment, right? So he sewed the bottoms of my pants together so I couldn't put my pants on. So I'm like, oh, you got me. So I cut them, funny. So it was payday, and I go to the bank, and I'm in line. I get up to the bank and want to cash my check, and they're like, yeah, can we have your license? I just got to look at your license. I go, no problem. I go, oh fuck. They're like, is there a problem? I go, yeah, my wallet's sewed into my pants. I'm in the band. There's some guy behind me with like a giant buck knife, is like cutting the threads out of the ass of my pants so I can get my wallet out of it. But
Oh my God.
it was just constant stuff like that, you know. Well, my first year we played Louisville in the playoffs, and I made the hockey news, and I got in a fight with a mascot from the other team. Again, my fighting stories aren't awesome, but we were in the playoffs. We're about to get eliminated. I'm in the penalty box, and this chicken, the Louisville Ice Hawk, is whacking me in the head with these big inflatable lips. And I like hit the glass. There's a cop right there. I'm like, get him the fuck out. And the cop's like laughing and whatever. And he's like rubbing his ass like on the glass behind my head. Like, and I look over at Chris, and Chris gives me the okay to like give him a whack, right? This guy hits me again with these lips. So I grab the top of the glass and I jump up and I tomahawk him with my stick. And then I climb over the glass. And I think in my head, I was trying to pull the head off of it, right? And so I'm half in, I'm hanging over the glass in the penalty box. I got cops on my arms. I got the refs grabbing me by the legs. I'm punching this thing in the head, and I can hear him screaming, help. He's like, help. Like he's screaming. I can hear him in there. And all the fans, anybody that had anything, like beer, soda, whatever, just covered in shit, like just throwing everything all over all of us. So I get kicked out of the game. I get $100 fine, and they let me play the next night. They said that the Birds instigated it. So the mascot instigated. So he got kicked out of the whole series, and they put him in like a cage outside the rink the next night and had like charity, like a National Audubon thing or some charity. So I was hated in Louisville.
Oh
But
my
actually, it's
God.
funny because we're buddies on Facebook now. Like, I was like, I
it's
was the
full circle.
mascot.
Full
Yeah.
circle.
Yep.
Oh
So
my God. That might be that might be I didn't know anything about that.
I tell people like I'm not gonna be in the Hall of Fame. I'm like a trivia question for Toledo. I scored the first goal. I fought a mascot, and I have probably the longest spanning career with the least amount of games. Like I go like over like what is it, 17 years or something. And I think at like one point I'm probably still a rookie. I don't have enough games to be like a veteran. But yeah. But thank you for having me on here. It was awesome.
Oh no, I mean, thank you. Like I said, you took an hour out of your day to sit down and talk about this, and we appreciate it. And anything, if you ever have any other good stories and want to jump back on in the future, I'm sure that we can make time.
And welcome back. So obviously we're recording this same day when we weren't here for the interview. I can't speak on it, but Travis, man, how did you enjoy that one? What was your biggest takeaways? I know, Nick, you've listened through it too, so I'll throw it to you after him.
It was so many laughs. Like, what's just funny with doing this is you never really know what to expect or what story you're going to hear. And the chicken was probably the funniest thing. And there's just so many stories. Like, you can't even like put into words some of the stuff that you hear, right? And like McSorley, like, oh, I'll trade you. Like, if you break your hand, I'll trade you. Like, it's like, holy crap. Like, and it was they're all just so great. And he's a great guy. Found out that he lives a half hour from my dad. So I was like, hey, next time I go to my dad's, let's meet up for lunch or something. So he's like, absolutely. So those guys, man, they're awesome. They've embraced being on this, being a part of this. And that's probably been my favorite part is they've all like enjoyed it so much, and just to continue to learn how tight of a group that was. Because like one thing too that he brought up was like, when he went to forget who the team was, it might have been Charlotte the next year. Like they don't even talk. Like they don't talk now. Like none of that team is together and talks. And like the Storm, like they still have a group message all these years later. Like it's crazy how that works and how some rooms are so much tighter than others. And that's a big thing. So that was a couple things that stood out for me.
So when you sent me the chicken story, I was dying. And I'm like, this guy reminds me so much of like Ed Helms, like Stu on The Hangover kind of thing. And as I'm watching the rest of the episode, like to go through for reals, like I'm just dying laughing of all of like the prank wars was one of my favorite parts of the story, because I'm big on pranking people. I love pranks, especially little harmless ones. And I'm not going to give too much away, because I do want people to watch or go through or listen to the episode or watch the episode. But it just kind of like, that was my favorite part. I'm going to have to find some other parts too throughout, that'll be clipping throughout. But yeah,
the taxi.
The taxi was good too. Yes, the taxis. The taxi story was hilarious. I'm trying to think what the other one was. The taxi, and then the two pranks that he had pulled. The one that was pulled on him. And I think there was another one that he had on there too. But so like those were my favorites. Like I love those stories, just because like you get to see like how they were as kids and like how they were like in the room. And I think that's why they were able to stay together for so long, like afterwards. Is like there was just a very good common like I don't want to say like bromance, but there was just like a bunch of bros, like a bunch of guys just hanging out and having a good time and like playing hockey, making money, getting free rides to the arena and back, and maybe a free couple dinners and stuff, like it just, those are the stories that I always want to hear, that I always appreciate, because it's like, okay, what really is going on? And it's because you don't get those from the current players right now. Like maybe in a couple
It's a different
years,
world.
Yeah, we'll get those. So yeah, I always love those stories.
I don't know what I enjoyed more, hearing your guys' takeaways or Nick trying to throw it back like he was going to spoil something, when this part of the recording is the end after the interview, and nobody skips through an interview just to hear us three go through the interview highlights again. That was the most classic Nick moment of this podcast to date.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
I had to mute my mic. I was laughing at you.
I mean, I'm trying to think too, because like I know this will come out tomorrow, but then like the reels won't come out till this weekend.
But the whole interview will be out tomorrow.
Yeah, and if they've gotten this far, they've already listened to the interview. So yeah, you guys will know what I'm talking about.
That's so good.
I think that files under the worst so back. Like Nick just has like the moment of all time. Like
there better be a real cut just of this moment. Honestly, there better
it's
be.
It's really hot in this room. Okay, and we've been doing this for a while tonight, and I work from home now, so it's like in this office.
Oh, welcome to my world. Now you know how you feel trapped in one room. It's great, man. Anyways,
we are so back.
With that nonsense, let's wrap this episode up. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in, and shout out to Bruce as well for coming on the show again. Thank you so much for giving us that time and sharing those stories. We really appreciate it. The interviews with the Storm players have been so much fun for all of us, and we just love that you guys feel like it's also fun to come talk with us about it. Like that's such a special thing for us. So thank you guys. Before we end the episode, though, we got to thank our sponsors of the show. Of course, Everything Hockey Clothing Company. Make sure you head over to everythinghockey.com. Check out what they have to offer. If you're buying anything, use code WEST. Save a few bucks off the order. It also supports the show. And, of course, we got to thank our Patreon subscribers as well, as we mentioned at the end of every episode. Since we've been back, Patreon's free for the summer. It's where all the bonus content goes, unedited episodes most of the time, unless it's an interview. Obviously, sometimes edits need to happen in those. Player discretion, so we might have to make an edit or two, so you won't get a full unedited one, but we want to keep interviewing players, so sorry, deal with it. But we got to thank you guys, for, especially the ones that have supported us all last season. The Patreon's what keeps the show going. That's the fun segment of the show where we can go over there and just kind of be off script and have a good time. So make sure you head over to patreon.com/Hockeytown West podcast. Check that out. With that, boys, let's wrap this one up. Thank you all for tuning in. I hope everybody has a fantastic rest of your week. We'll talk to you again next week with yet again another interview and any other updates of off-season content. But until then, go Griffins, go Walleye.
Love you. Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to the Hockeytown West podcast. Be sure to check us out on Twitter at HockeytownWPod, and your host, Nick at GR Hockey Guy, and Brandon at Brandon GR Hockey.